Well, hey there. Well, today I'm out here by a grafted tree. I do an awful lot of sharing of the grafts that I've done. And this tree right here, I haven't shared an awful lot about this tree. And just to share with you today, this is a tree that I had grafted this year that I like to call top work. This tree had 9 different pieces of scion wood grafted into it. And out of the 9, 8 of them took. They're doing very, very well. I mean, I'm very, very pleased. It's an overlease. And it's probably a 4-year old, maybe a 5-year old seedling, but you can see the growth that I've gotten out of it, and I'm very pleased. But that being said, you know, that's not the reason why I'm here. Now, to let you know, a lot of people they tend to post things on the different pawpaw Facebooks. First and foremost, let me thank you for joining me on Pawpaw Chronicles. And somebody had posted something on one of the Facebook pages, Pawpaw Chronicles in particular, was they had a tree that was putting up root suckers, uh, and it's a 5-year old tree. And it was a very good post. But it caused me to think about things. And it gave me the reason to share what it is that I'm getting ready to share and talk about. A lot of the postings that I see, and incidentally, there's 6 pawpaw Facebook pages out there. That's quite a bit for just a pawpaw. And I'll look at postings, and a lot of those postings will spark an idea for my uh, Pawpaw Chronicles with Jim Dingus uh, YouTube page. And I welcome you for joining me today. Now, let me get back to talking about root suckers. You all know that I am a big advocate for the root sucker, and and I've done a lot of transplanting of root suckers, which I have one over there I transplanted this year, and it's doing very well. It's been 2 weeks now, but and I enjoy grafting into root suckers. For me personally, I get more gain out of that grafted tree. But getting not trying to get away from what I'm here for. Let's say I take this tree. It's a overlease grafted, and I begin to get root suckers growing up around that tree. And I think, well, I'm going to leave them be. You know, I may have a root sucker that grows out a good 5, 6 feet away from this tree later on down the road. And I decide I'm going to let that root sucker grow out and let it do its own thing. Good idea. Not a bad idea. I mean, eventually, what will end up happening is it'll be a pollinator itself for this grafted tree. But, however, let me give you something to think about. Root suckers in generally, they grow fast and they grow quickly. I mean, they're feeding off of the same root system that the mother tree is growing from. And let's say you have 4 or 5 root suckers out here, and you allow them to grow and you allow them to mature into their own individual tree. My advice would be, if that's what you want to do, go to that lateral root from this tree and cut that root sucker loose from this tree. And there's a reason for that. You know, when I graft trees, one of the things that I look at is growth coming from what is called the rootstock. And what I'll do is I'll come out here in these topwork trees and I'll knock any growth coming out of the original rootstock. Take my fingernail and just knock it out of the way. And put that energy into the scion wood, which everything that you see on this tree is from the scion wood that I placed into this tree. Not one leaf, not one stem, nothing is coming from what I call the rootstock. You don't want that rootstock to grow, you want the scion to grow. Now, if I have a bunch of root suckers that come up, 4, 5 that I allow to live, and allow them to grow, what ends up happening? The root sucker itself is nothing more than the rootstock growth. And it could overcome your grafted tree, and you don't want that. Because if you allow that to happen, and it overcomes this grafted tree, it could mean curtains for this particular variety that you want to work with. Now, that's backwards to what I was talking about grafting. Well, really it's not. Because earlier this year, I had posted a video on the page about cutting loose that root sucker and grafting that root sucker. Just like that tree over there I just walked by and looked at. That tree is not a known variety. However, it flowers every year, and it does have fruit in it. Doesn't get real big fruit, but, excuse me, I elected to allow that tree to continue to grow and continue to produce its flowers and its fruit. The fruit is available to me. Even though it's not a big fruit, it's still a pawpaw. But however, by allowing that tree to grow right where it's at and allowing it to flower when it comes time for this tree to flower, that tree will pollinate this tree and give me fruit. However, what I had showed earlier this year, I allow that tree to send out root suckers, and that tree itself, I cut the root sucker loose and I graft that root sucker into a particular variety. Now that parent tree is pollinating the grafted root sucker that I had converted into a individual, as I should say. And that would be the same concept here. I allow the root suckers to grow from this tree, which, by the way, the seedling that this rootstock is a good quality seedling. It just doesn't have a known variety. I would come out here and I would cut that lateral root loose from that mother tree or parent tree and allow that root sucker to grow as an individual separated from this tree. Now that root sucker, when it gets big enough and throws out flowers, it'll pollinate this tree, and that's what I'm after, if that's the route I choose to go. Me personally, because I'm out here in my yard, basically, any root suckers coming up, they're going to get mowed down. I'm not going to allow root suckers to grow up around this tree because it's part of my yard. Now, if I have an area, a staging area, like up here by the driveway, that's a different story, which there's other ideas that I will share as time goes on about these little pawpaws and utilizing root suckers as rootstock. I love using root suckers as rootstock. They do very, very well as far as grafting, as some of the pictures that I have shared on the pawpaw pages, they do very well as far as grafting. But this tree in itself, I will not allow root suckers to grow around this tree, nor will I have a future idea of trying to harvest root suckers from this tree. I have other trees that I consider a staging area to do that with. This tree, no. That tree, no. The tree on the other side, no. And the root sucker that's over there, no. It's part of my yard. I'll keep it mowed out. But you do whatever you feel is best for you. I'm just throwing out a little bit of advice to you as far as dealing with grafted trees and root suckers. I hope that this information helps you out in your journey as far as the pawpaw. I really, really love the way this little tree has grown. I mean, I'm looking where the end of that scion wood is up to here, and I'm looking at 2.5, close to 3 foot of growth. I'm saying probably about 30 inches of growth, and this one right here is more than 2 foot by far. I've gotten a lot of growth out of this tree, and it has no flower buds for next year, which next year I look for it to produce flower buds, but it may not. Only time will tell. But something that I wanted to share and talk to you about, and hopefully, maybe I'm wrong, but hopefully, maybe I'm right. I just wanted to talk to you about that. Anyways, like I said, welcome to the Pawpaw Chronicles with Jim Dingus. If you like what you see, subscribe. Beautiful little trees. Don't forget to click on that bell for notifications. Any comments or questions that you may have, I welcome. Y'all have a God bless day.